The Zephyrian assassin crouched motionless on the crystalline spire overlooking the human embassy, her forearms perfectly still as moonlight danced across her obsidian exoskeleton. Kirithes had never failed a contract in 300 cycles of service to the Shadow Guild. Tonight would be no different. Her target sat alone in the embassy's garden, a peculiar human ritual he performed every evening according to her surveillance. Ambassador Marcus Chen appeared defenseless. No energy shields, no plasma weapons, not even the basic neural implants that most civilized species considered essential. Just flesh and bone and whatever primitive thoughts occupied his soft pink brain. The contract had been explicit. Eliminate the human before tomorrow's vote. The Galactic Senate was on the verge of granting humanity full membership, and certain factions found this unacceptable. Humans were too young, too violent, too unpredictable. They had only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago, barely yesterday in galactic terms. Kirithes flexed her secondary arms, feeling the familiar weight of her monomolecular blades. The weapons could slice through reinforced hull plating, and human skin would offer no resistance whatsoever. She had studied their anatomy extensively, such fragile creatures with their single heart and exposed circulatory system. One precise cut and the human would bleed out in moments. She dropped silently from the spire, her natural camouflage adjusting to match the embassy's white walls. The security grid had been laughably easy to circumvent. Humans relied too heavily on technology, and not enough on instinct. Their guards were asleep, trusting in their primitive sensors. The garden door stood open. Ambassador Chen sat on a stone bench, completely oblivious to her approach. He was reading something on a primitive paper book, an actual paper book like some backward savage. His head was turned away, exposing the vulnerable curve of his neck. Kirithes drew her primary blade, the crystalline edge humming with lethal energy. 3 steps would bring her within striking distance. The human would never see it coming. She took the first step. Chen turned a page, still unaware. Second step. A small sound escaped the human, not alarm, but what Kirithes recognized as laughter. Soft, gentle laughter at whatever he was reading. Third step. Now she stood directly behind him, blade raised for the killing stroke. One quick motion would sever his spinal cord. Clean, professional, final. Chen turned around. For a moment, time seemed suspended. The assassin stood frozen with her weapon raised, all 4 eyes locked on the human's face. She had expected fear, perhaps defiance, maybe even the blank shock of imminent death. Instead, Marcus Chen smiled. Not the baring of teeth that many species used as a threat display, not the rictus of terror or the grimace of resignation. This was something else entirely, something warm and genuine and utterly disarming. His dark eyes crinkled at the corners, and his whole face seemed to light up with what Kirithes could only describe as joy. "You must be Kirithes," he said calmly, as if greeting an old friend. "I've been expecting you." The assassin's blade trembled. Her secondary arms, trained for perfect stability, began to shake. "How? How do you know my name?" Chen's smile never wavered. "Oh, I know quite a lot about you, actually. Orphaned on Zephyr Prime during the Crystal Plague. Inducted into the Shadow Guild at age 12. 734 successful contracts over 3 centuries. He paused, tilting his head slightly. "But did you know you were named after your grandmother? Kirithes the Healer. She saved over 10,000 lives during the plague outbreak." The blade fell from nerveless fingers, clattering against the stone pathway. That's impossible. Those records were sealed. Destroyed." "Nothing is ever truly destroyed," Chen said gently. "Your grandmother was quite remarkable, you know. She could have evacuated with the others when the quarantine broke down, but she stayed. She chose to stay and help people she'd never met, knowing she would likely die. Which she did, 3 days before the cure arrived." Kirithes staggered backward, her exoskeleton shifting through rapid color changes. Confusion, distress, disbelief. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I wanted you to know who you really are before you made your choice." Chen stood slowly, keeping his movements non-threatening. "The Shadow Guild told you I was a monster, didn't they? That humans are a plague upon the galaxy, violent and destructive and unworthy of membership." The assassin's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in her species. They showed me the files, your wars, your history of violence, the billions you've killed." "All true," Chen acknowledged. "We have done terrible things. But that's not the whole story, is it? Just like the Shadow Guild isn't the whole story of who you are. He gestured to the garden around them. This memorial was built by human colonists on Kepler 442b. Every flower here represents a non-human life saved by human intervention. The blue ones are for the Altarian refugees we evacuated during their civil war. The red ones commemorate the Vegan children we pulled from the mining disaster on Vega 7. The yellow ones. His voice trailed off as he saw her expression changing. Kirithus was staring at a cluster of purple blooms near the fountain. Those are Zephyrian memorial flowers. Yes. Each one planted for a life saved during the Crystal Plague Relief Mission. We arrived too late to save everyone, but Chen's voice grew soft. We saved 1847 survivors, including a young girl in the Temple District who grew up to become quite famous in certain circles. The assassin's legs gave out. She collapsed to her knees, all four arms wrapped around herself. The humans. You saved me? During the plague? Medical Corpsman Sarah Williams pulled you from the rubble of the temple. You were unconscious, barely breathing. Crystal shards embedded in your carapace. She worked on you for 6 hours straight, refusing relief, refusing food, refusing to give up. Chen knelt beside the shaking assassin. Sarah died 3 years ago. Natural causes. But she never forgot the little Zephyrian girl she saved. She always wondered what became of you. Kirithus looked up at him, her four eyes streaming with the bioluminescent tears of her species. Why? Why show mercy to someone sent to kill you? Chen's smile returned, sadder now but no less genuine. Because mercy is what separates us from the darkness. Because every being deserves a chance to choose who they want to be. And because... He reached out slowly, carefully, offering his hand. Because your grandmother would have wanted someone to show you the same kindness she showed others. The assassin stared at his outstretched hand for a long moment. Then, moving with the same fluid grace she had used to approach with murderous intent, she bowed deeply, the formal bow of respect reserved for honored elders in Zephyrian culture. Forgive me, Ambassador, she whispered. I choose differently. Chen helped her to her feet. The choice is always ours to make, Kirithus. Every day, every moment, we choose who we want to be. As dawn broke over the embassy garden, the assassin and the human sat together on the stone bench, talking quietly about the future, about second chances, about the power of mercy, and about the grandmother whose legacy of healing had finally found its way home, through the most unlikely of paths. The next day, the Galactic Senate voted unanimously to grant humanity full membership, and in the Shadow Guild's records, Kirithus the assassin was listed as killed in action, which in a way was perfectly true.